In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at and asking the question, do the 4 best stretches for lordosis work? Now, what does that mean? Well, the 4 best stretches for lordosis are my free download, which you can click through if you just click on the link below in the description. You can download it and you can start working on or working with those stretches. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is find out if they work and how to get the most from them. So in this first part, we want to be able to measure something. So what we need to be able to do is measure our lordosis. And the easiest way to do that is to go side on to a camera, sort of bring the arms out so you can see what's happening here. So you may see big curvature of the spine, abdominals, and we've got that lordotic curve. Now we can either take a photo, take a video of it. Could be more effective taking a video of it, but also we want to measure how it's feeling, because not only do we want to see just changes and it coming in, we also want to be able to understand how well we can come out of that position. So we may find ourselves in a position like this, but what we want to be able to do is get out of that position and into this position. That's where a video can be really helpful. Also, you want to feel where the tightnesses are when that's happening. So we're looking at that over time because we want to do that at the start of the workout. Then we want to retest that at the end of the workout to not only see that it's improved, but can we move out of that position easier, and also it helps us see the position that we're in after we've done the stretches. So that's going to basically be our measure and our guide. So we're going to now look at the 4 stretches. And stretch number 1 is the adductor stretch, which is the inside of the leg. And it shares the same fascial line as the psoas. So we need to relax this muscle as well as the psoas to be able to get the most out of what we're trying to do, which is correct and reduce lordosis. So all you're going to do, now most of this information and more is in the freebie. What I'll also do as well is I'll share with you a few extra videos, and I'll just send those through via email a few days in, where you can get more out of these stretches. But what essentially we're looking to do is come down onto the knee, leg going out onto the side and coming into here. We also want to be able to flatten the spine, because you may find that you're in a sort of a lordotic pose, but we want to try and again come out of that position and into that more neutral position. So we would hold this position. Again, I've got all the times and everything in the freebie, so you can get all of the sort of the workout part of it. All we're really looking at is trying to understand how we can make them work. So we've got the adductor stretch. That's going to be working the inside of the leg. We want to be able to manage the posture as we're in the stretch as well, because that's going to help our body learn what it needs to be able to do to be able to correct its posture. So stretch number 1 is the adductor stretch. Stretch number 2 is the psoas stretch. Now the psoas is the muscle that goes from the inside of the leg here and then joins on to the 5 lumbar vertebra and the bottom thoracic vertebra as well. This is the main culprit within lordosis, because it's the one that attaches to the spine, that pulls on it and that creates that excessive lumbar curve. Now how we're going to stretch that is we come down into this position, and essentially we're in this position. We want to try and keep knee below hip. We can come forward a little bit, but we don't want to put too much pressure on the front of the hip capsule. So we would come into this position. Now what we can then add to get a little bit of extra stretch is just lifting the arm up over the head. So you may already be feeling a bit of a stretch down through the abdomen just in this position. If that's the case, then that's fine. If you want a little bit more, you can just lift the arm up over, and then you would just hold that there for the time that you're in this stretch. So that would be the psoas stretch, which again, as I've mentioned, shares the same fascial line as the adductors. So we're going all the way down through this aspect of the body here. What we then want to do is move on to the 3rd muscle, which is again another hip flexor, which can become tight during lordosis. This one then pulls on the front of the hip. And the muscle's called the rectus femoris. It joins the front of the hip to the shin, going through the kneecap or the patella. Now, I'm going to be using a couple of foam rollers, but all you need is something to hook your foot up onto, and when you go to the freebie, you'll see that I've got the roller down in this position. But what you can also do is bring it up into this position so you get more flexion of the knee. The other one is just for balance. You can do this on a sofa, and then you've got a chair or something to balance with, but because of where I am and the environment that I'm in, I'm using 2 foam rollers. So what's going to happen is, again, we're going to come down onto one knee, and then I'm going to hook my foot up onto here, and then I'm getting a very strong stretch coming down through the front of the thigh. So it's not so much up in the psoas now, it's a very similar movement. Now if you can't get into this position, you can do as I show in the freebie, which is this sort of position, which is slightly milder. I don't get much of a stretch in this position, so I would go for a little bit more in the way of knee flexion. What you also get in the freebie is how to progress, how to regress, technique faults and things like that. It's all written in there. So you go through into this position and just hold again that stretch. And then finally, what we've then done is we've now tried to elongate as many muscles as we can that are involved in lordosis. What we're now going to do is just try and get the hip joint moving, so when we retest it at the end, we can hopefully see an improvement. So finally, it's the hip mobility. So what we've done so far is try to lengthen the muscles so they're able to move a little bit more. What we're now going to do is try and encourage that movement a little bit more. So we're going to come down into this position, feet are going to be wide, and then you're just going to drop your feet so you see your knee sort of goes towards your heel. So if I turn this way, so we're in that position. Then we're going to roll over and go the other way. Roll over, go the other way. So again, we're just trying to mobilize the joint, like so. And again, all the reps are written in, so you'll know what to do. There is a range, so you can change it. But now that we've gone through the 4 stretches, what we now need to do is retest. So we now need to go back to what we were doing earlier, which is standing in that position, and then getting the camera back out, take another photo, take another video, and feel, can we get into a straighter spine more easily? Now I've just given you a demonstration of the structure of what you need to be doing, but what we would now do is the measurement again. So we would test it to measure, is what we've just done been effective? So again, we would break out the camera and we would stand in front of it. Now what you might see is that you're in a better position already because the body's, in some respects, loosened up and realigned itself. But what you might find is that you're in the same position, but you try to come out of that lordotic position and it doesn't feel as difficult, or it feels like there's more movement there. So what you now do is you then, in some respects, keep training your body. Now that you've loosened up the muscles and the tissues around the joints, you now come into that position, and every time you come into that position now, your brain will remember that it's been there. And then the more that you do it, the more that position will be reinforced. So that is the retesting and the measuring of those 4 stretches that we've done. So to quickly summarise, what we've talked about are the 4, or do the 4 best stretches for lordosis work? Well, what we have to do is we have to test it and we have to measure it. So we've done a test at the start using a camera, taking a photo, but making sure we can feel what it feels like to be in a lordotic position and in a better posture. We've then gone through the 4 stretches, which are the adductor, psoas, rectus femoris, and then the hip mobility, loosened up all those tissues, and then retested. Are we in a different position, or are we able to get into a better position more easily? If we can, they are working. So that is how we know they can work. So it's just now a case of clicking in the link, downloading it, and getting started. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from Chris for Whole Training. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.